The LA Rams are the Super Bowl 56 champions. As if the city of LA hasn't had enough championships to celebrate in the last couple of years, they get to celebrate another one as the LA Rams beat the Bengals in a come from behind win by a score of 23-20. Now, as far as overall Super Bowls are concerned, at least the ones that I have seen, I'd say that this Super Bowl, I'd say it's top 3. I don't think this one beat Super Bowl 49. I don't think it beat Super Bowl 51, at least from an overall football fan perspective, as an avid football watcher perspective. I'd say that this is the third best Super Bowl that I've seen. This game had everything. It had big offensive plays. Both defenses showed up in this game. This game really had everyone on the edge of their seat throughout the entire game. And it came down to the wire. This game also had many plays and many moments that changed the momentum and the tide of the game for both sides throughout the night. And that is something you want to see in a Super Bowl. And the first of many moments in this game that were game-changing moments was the 4th and 1 play by the Bengals early in that first quarter, where they weren't able to convert on 4th down, which they turned the ball over on downs, because that, by not getting that 4th down, they gave the Rams good field position. And the last thing that you want when you're taking on a Sean McVay offense is to give his offense good field position. And that's ultimately what they did by not getting that 4th down, by that decision. I know the analytics say to go for it on 4th and 1, which honestly you should, but you gotta dial a play that you know is going to work every single time. And it just didn't work out for the Bengals that time, and they gave the Rams good field position. And next thing we know, the Rams are up 7-0 with a touchdown pass to Odell Beckham Jr. Then a little bit later in that game, Joe Burrow completes a 46-yard pass to Jamar Chase to get to the Rams' 11-yard line. And unfortunately, the Bengals, they only were able to come away with a field goal on that drive. And then the next possession, we see a Rams touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp has been a dominant receiver all season long. Cooper Kupp has always found a way. He has always somehow been able to get wide open all season long for the Rams. But a mishandled snap on that point after attempt kept the score at 13-3. And most of the time when you miss an extra point, a lot of the times that does come back to haunt you. And that was a big question, was that mishandled snap on the PAT attempt, was that going to come back to haunt the Rams later in the game? Then the next possession, we see Joe Mixon throw a touchdown pass to T. Higgins, as T. Higgins would have 2 touchdowns in this game for 100 receiving yards on 4 catches, which we'll get to T. Higgins' second touchdown in a little bit. Then Matthew Stafford, before the 2-minute warning, throws an interception in the end zone. Jesse Bates comes down with the INT. And the Bengals end up getting a penalty for, I guess, one of the players ran onto the field, and that was an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Which, it's nothing new, but really costly mistake when you think about it. Even though the Bengals couldn't take advantage of that Stafford interception at all, it makes you think, if only they had those extra yards for not, if they didn't get that penalty, you just think, could they have gotten a field goal out of it? Could that have been enough? And then after a couple punts, we get to halftime, where the Rams were up by a score of 13-10. Overall, by the way, pretty great halftime performance. I saw a lot of the reviews on Twitter, and many are saying it's the best halftime show they've ever seen, best halftime show ever, best halftime show in years. Overall, a great halftime show. I'm sure it's a 5-star rating or a 10 out of 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. The second half begins, and on the very first play, Joe Burrow to T. Higgins for 75 yards to the house to give the Bengals a 17-13 lead. Momentum on the Bengals side at this point, and even more momentum gets on the Bengals side as Matthew Stafford, on the very next possession, throws an interception. And this momentum, honestly, as soon as that second interception was thrown by Stafford, I thought that the Bengals were going to start running away with this game. It honestly felt like that kind of game where the Bengals had a big play and got momentum. It fired up the defense. They make a play to give the Bengals really good field position. And I just thought the Bengals were going to score a touchdown. But they had to settle for a field goal. They couldn't take full advantage of that second Matthew Stafford turnover. So those two Matthew Stafford interceptions only were able to be answered with a total of 3 points. And when you're playing an offense like the Rams, you got to have them both be touchdowns if you want to win that game. Then the very next possession for the Rams, they kick a field goal to go up to cut the lead to 20-16. And then after that, we just get punt after punt after punt after punt, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it shows that the defenses are really showing out in this game. But the game-winning touchdown drive, Cooper Kupp has been reliable all year long for Matthew Stafford. And once again, Cooper Kupp comes up big, as Cooper Kupp scores the game-winning touchdown to put the Rams up for good by a score of 23-20. But let's not forget that the play call from Sean McVay on 4th and 1 to give it to Cooper Kupp on a jet sweep to convert that 4th down, as ultimately that was ultimately a big difference. The Rams were able to convert a 4th and 1 in crunch time, which ultimately does remind me a little bit of Super Bowl 52 when the Eagles were on their game-winning drive and they converted a 4th and 1. That final drive had it all. I mean, there were costly penalties by the Bengals. One, holding on that 3rd down play, which ultimately it would have been 4th and goal if he doesn't hold him, although he probably would have scored the touchdown there. You never know. The Bengals, they did get one more chance to try to force overtime or get the win, but the Bengals, they fell short. But you got to credit the Bengals just for even making it this far, because nobody really expected the Bengals to be in the Super Bowl, let alone even make the playoffs. And the Bengals, they will be back in the Super Bowl pretty soon. Whether if it's next season or 2 seasons from now or 3 seasons from now, no matter how long it is, the Bengals, they will be back in the Super Bowl really soon. Now, I want to go back and recap my prediction view a little bit to go over the matchups that I knew were going to be important as far as deciding a winner. And I said the biggest one was going to be the Bengals O-line versus the Rams defensive line. And ultimately it was. Joe Burrow, he only got sacked once in that first half. But then in the second half, it was more of what we have seen more times than not throughout the season, where Joe Burrow is constantly under pressure, constantly being harassed. I don't think I've seen any quarterback get harassed in one season like I've seen Joe Burrow get harassed all season long. I don't think I have. And for the Bengals to get back to the Super Bowl, they need to invest in the offensive line, in the draft, in free agency, as the Bengals, they do have the resources to be one of, if not the most aggressive team in free agency this season. Well, this offseason. Second matchup was Cooper Kupp versus the Bengals secondary. Third most important, Jamar Chase versus Jalen Ramsey. Then the fourth most important, T. Higgins versus the Rams secondary. So ultimately, 4 good matchups that ultimately determined the winner of the game. As the Rams defensive line, they were dominant against Joe Burrow, especially in the second half. Cooper Kupp winning the Super Bowl MVP with 92 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning touchdown, and a clutch 4th and 1 conversion on that jet sweep play. And I also want to go over what I said the keys to the game was going to be in my prediction video that I made last week. As I mentioned in that, the game plan pretty simplified in this game. For the Bengals, it was to protect Joe Burrow and to let a wide receiver other than Cooper Kupp beat you at the end of the game. They failed to protect Joe Burrow in that second half. The first half, they did a pretty good job with that. Burrow only got sacked once in that first half, but the second half, a complete letdown. And let a receiver other than Cooper Kupp beat you at the end. They failed to do so. Cooper Kupp beat them at the very end. He beat them the entire last drive of that game. And the keys of the game for the Rams: bring the harassment towards Joe Burrow. They did that. And utilize your new acquisitions. Utilizing Matthew Stafford early on, Odell Beckham Jr., Von Miller. And ultimately they did. Odell Beckham Jr. had the first touchdown of that game, but unfortunately he left the game early due to an injury, as it is possible, it's being speculated that it could potentially be his ACL. But I'm at least happy that Odell Beckham is getting a Super Bowl ring, well deserved, by having to put up with the Giants for the entire early portion of his career, having to deal with Cleveland. I'm happy Odell Beckham gets a ring. I'm happy Aaron Donald gets a Super Bowl ring. It really, ultimately, it cements his legacy as one of the best defensive players in this generation. Matthew Stafford getting a ring, pretty happy for him. Although I really wanted to see Cincinnati win this game because they've never won a championship before, and the city of Cincinnati, I feel like they deserve to win a championship no matter what sport it's in. But as I said a few moments ago, the Bengals will be back. It's only a matter of when. If they make smart moves in free agency and the draft, it could easily be next season. Or it could be the season after that. But the Bengals, they will be back, as they proved that any team, any year, can get to the big game. Now that is all I have for you tonight. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we are now in the off season for football. So NFL mock draft stuff is going to start coming out this week, maybe even tomorrow. So be on the lookout for some mock draft stuff. And again, as always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it, or today, or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for tuning in. And until next time, have a wonderful day, wonderful night, or whenever you're tuning in.